Cool. Well, Matt, excited to have you on. You are a long-awaited guest, and super excited to have you on, man. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a strength and conditioning chiropractor, so focusing a lot on just like helping people move better, feel better. I'm a dad, a husband, ex-athlete, Canadian, guilty. So just kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm a meditation instructor and a breath coach as well, but really just trying to help people feel better.
Yeah, that's actually funny. You said Canadian, guilty. I had in your intro when I was writing it up, I had retired Canadian, but then I was like, I didn't know if you were gonna like take offense to that.
Maple syrup connoisseur.
Yeah. But one of what's crazy is I met you through Sam Holt. I met you and Josh through Sam Holt. It was like middle of the winter. I was snowboarding and I like fell and my shoulder hurt really bad. My neck was like hurting. And I remember I like saw Sam in passing and I told Sam, I was like, dude, my God, I just can't lift a camera. My shoulders like hurts. My neck kind of hurts. And he's like, go see like my chiropractor friends at like TCOM. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go check it out. But just so you know, like, I was like, I don't believe in chiropractors. Like, I don't understand how a chiropractor cracks a pregnant lady's back the same way they crack like an athlete's back and do all the same things. And then I went in there and you guys are like 100% dedicated to like making people feel better and leaving. Like I got my back cracked. Then we went into the CrossFit area. We lifted some weights. We went through some rehab, some band exercises, some kettlebell exercises, even like some muscle relaxation stuff. Like you guys did everything. And I like walked out of there feeling amazing. And I think I maybe went back like one more time, but then I was good. It was crazy. Awesome. Yeah, like it was the first time in my life I actually got like cured.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't even know that story, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I was saving it for the pod.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like just healthcare in general, I think like sometimes it gets kind of tough when you're dealing with insurance and you have like third party like groups that are more dictating or navigating how treatment is done based on how they pay out. So that's part of the reason why we don't accept insurance. We're a cash-based practice. And it just allows us more freedom to kind of do what we feel is right in the moment and just try to serve the patient wherever they're at to help them reach their goals, which seems like that should be like the standard, but honestly, just because of the way that the healthcare system is structured and the way that the reimbursement is structured for providers, it makes it really challenging to do that sometimes. So.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. I have the worst insurance ever. So sometimes when there's like a non-insurance based option, I like always take it because it almost seems like it's cheaper than if I...
Honestly, that's like part of the reason why we decided to go out of network or not accept insurance, is because coverage for chiropractic care anyways is pretty weak, especially in Minnesota. And it kind of just changes the way that the patient is invested in themselves getting better, which is our whole model, is trying to empower people to like feel like they've got a seat at the table rather than feeling like they just need to hope that somebody's going to fix them. We want them to feel like an active participant in the process. Yeah.
Dang, that's super cool. And when you say who is all like part of TCOM?
Yeah, so we have a solid group of us right now. There's 8 different providers, which I think you've met a couple, but yeah. So we kind of have, we work together, but we also work separately. So we work underneath the TCOM brand. The Center of Movement is what TCOM stands for. And then we kind of have our own individual like practices within that in a couple different locations.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And Matt is, for all the viewers listening, Matt is a client, a friend. He is a model sometimes. Like we cross paths on basically every single realm out there.
We've been places. We've done stuff.
Yeah, we definitely have. And I feel like specifically this year, like I don't know if I actually officially met you until like we did that event where you talked about like the athletes and their identity crisis and stuff like that.
Yeah, the January event. Yeah, we talked a lot about like limiting beliefs and like especially with like the population of being an athlete. And yeah, that was a fun event. That was awesome.
Yeah. And tell me about what inspired that.
Yeah, so that particular event, I mean, that's something that I'm passionate about anyways, just in general, but my like a big part of, I think, my purpose is just to help people, especially athletes, just because that's what I know, like get beyond what their label is. I think in society we get put a whole bunch of, like, there's just a shit ton of labels that we get put on us, whether it's like, hey, you're like the videographer guy, or you're the chiropractor, or you're the dad, or you're whatever. And we get lumped into these little categories. And I think that who we are as human beings is so much deeper than that. And sometimes those labels can really be limiting or destructive sometimes. And I notice it a lot with athletes. Did you play football?
Hockey.
You played hockey, that's right.
Hockey and lacrosse,
Yeah, so like, it's like you get done playing your sport and all of a sudden, you invested like 15 to 20 years of your life doing this thing. And when you're young, like, that's like how you identify. It's like, man, I'm on the hockey team, I'm on the varsity team, I'm on the junior team. And then that's gone one day and all of a sudden you're like, shit, like, who am I? Like, I've been like putting all my eggs in this one basket for so long and now I'm lost.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, when you're young, like, that's when you need to hear that message, is like maybe when you're like a teenager, but like you're not open to hearing that when you're like 14, 15, 16. Like, you're just like, no, I'm a stud. Like, I don't need to hear that. I don't need to hear that this is going to be over sometime.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, my mission is just to like help educate as much as we can, but then at the same time, like, let people who have already gone through that know that they're not by themselves in that feeling of like aloneness, or like feeling lost with who they are because they don't have that one thing to rest on anymore. So yeah,
and sometimes that identity like holds so much weight for someone, where like, it's like the only place they have community, or the only place they feel safe, or like where they can be vulnerable. And then like you said, like when that gets pulled out from underneath you, it's tough.
Yeah,
very tough.
I mean, we talked about it at that event, but like just spending more time like investing in the qualities that you've maybe built during that period of your life instead of like the title. So like, for example, like as a hockey player, you learned teamwork, you learned dedication, you learned how to be resilient. And those are all things that you still do as a business owner now.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we forget that, like, just because the title is no longer there, it doesn't mean that like all the things that came from that title aren't still existing and within you now.
Exactly. Like taking the plus and the positive sides out of it and then investing it into the current moment with whatever you're doing is huge. Sure. I saw this like quote on TikTok, and it was like, depression is like when you look backwards and like dwell on the past. Anxiety is when you look like forward and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then like happiness is just like living in the present moment and just being like who you are authentically right now. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, yeah. And that's like, kind of alludes to your point of like, you can look back and dwell on like, oh, I didn't go pro in hockey, or I didn't make it this far in hockey. Or you could be like, it taught me this and I'm here right now and I'm going to exist here.
Yeah. Like, what did you get from that? What did you learn? What lessons did you pick up? And just kind of, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's a great way to start it with a little bit of depth. But can you tell us a little bit, Matt, about your journey and how you became a strength and rehab chiropractor?
Yeah, so
with a significant following on Instagram and TikTok, because this guy, every time I check his page, he's got like thousands of more followers. I can't believe it. Well, the content's good though, and it's so consistent. Yeah,
got to be consistent. Yeah, I mean, those are maybe two separate stories, but we can kind of talk about like the whole thing. Like I mean, like I said, I played sports my whole life, so like I got into chiropractic because I wanted to help people that were in similar positions as me, just like looking to feel better and kind of do the stuff that they wanted to do, whether it was like play their sport or like weekend warrior type stuff. Honestly, when I was first getting into this, I wanted to work with pro athletes and realized real quick that like that's definitely not my target audience. I love working with pros, but I feel like I get a lot more fulfillment on like just helping somebody that's in pain get back to an activity that really gives them some mental break or some mental resilience. Like, for example, I was working with this lady the other day who had some significant back pain, and she was more upset that she couldn't be with her people in the gym than like the fact that she was actually injured. So like, she had such an emotional reason, like, or tie to getting back out of pain. And those are the kind of people that I love working with, is like they're just fired up and ready to like feel better and motivated by something like that. So so that is kind of, I mean, what the reason I got into this was because I wanted to help athletes, and now I think it's the same, but my definition of an athlete is maybe different than it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think like you had told me when we met this winter that, and I think this might be an overarching thing outside of TCOM, but like you are all about harvesting a community and building a community. And I mean, you do so much more than just like cracking backs, you know, like you are thermoculture, you work at Barry's boot camp, you do just even community building kind of influencer styled events. Tell me what kind of drives you to want to make that community?
Yeah, I think I think that comes from being like somebody who's been involved in sports their whole life too, is like that feeling of being a part of something bigger than just yourself is so important. And I noticed that athletics does a good job of that. Honestly, fitness has started to do a really good job of that, like finding inclusive environments for people to get together and sweat and move. But for some reason, healthcare does a really shitty job at like helping people feel like they're supported and feel like they're strong and feel like they're together. So my mission is really surrounding that concept of how can we create environments for people to be vulnerable and feel like they're heard and kind of get out of this lonely, shameful place that being injured or hurt usually leaves us in, is kind of one of my biggest like driving forces, is just creating environments where people can like thrive together.
Yeah.
Because arguably, like, that's when you need it the most, is when you're struggling. Like, if you're, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally, it's like we need our people, we need that tribe or that community. And we don't do a good job of like fostering that in healthcare.
Yeah. That's interesting that like I don't know if are you specifically talking about like fitness and community within fitness when you're kind of in that low point?
Yeah,
a little bit, because
kind of. I mean, I guess I get a little like targeted in that area because that's like who I typically work with, and it's not necessarily just fitness. I call it like the active population. So people who are motivated to like get back out of pain so they can continue with the lifestyle that they have built for themselves. Yeah. Whether that's in a CrossFit gym, at Barry's, or maybe it's like, hey, I just love being outdoors and hiking. Yeah.
Well, I remember like, dude, it was like, I was working at a trucking company way back when, and I was actually working at a trucking company I loved, and then they sold, and we went to this different trucking company, and I was like, in college, I was a college dropout, and now I'm working with like a bunch of people I just do not like being around every day. And I remember my job sucked so much, and I've never been like a huge workout guy, that I made it to the gym like every single day because that sounded so much better than like working. And now I love my job so much I never make it to the gym. But like, it's interesting how like at that time, man, I was like, I don't even know what got into me. I just was like, there was no question about was or wasn't going to the gym. It was like I needed that like level of therapy.
Yeah, life. And I think that it can provide, like you said, like so much more than just like what people think of like going to the gym is like, oh, I just want to get shredded. Like I want to get jacked in the gym. But it's like there is this layer of like social health or like mental health or emotional support that comes from just simply the act of moving and sweating, but also like struggling and being in that with people kind of is another layer to that. So I'm also like becoming more and more aware that like it's not for everybody to like be in a group environment to work out. Like a lot of people get a lot of benefit from doing it on their own or being in like solidarity with themselves. Like this is my me time. I don't want to talk to anyone, headphones in. Like there's mental health benefits to that as well. Yeah. So I think it's kind of cool, but just, trying to, as far as community goes, just trying to like create opportunities for people to get together and just like tell stories and like talk about like find relatable topics around healthcare to like connect on, because like I said, it is such a shameful, like lonely place to be injured, where like, especially if you're in the fitness or movement or active population, where it's like, oh, well, Billy can't come hiking with us because his back's fucked up.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I got to take like 2 months off the gym because I can't even squat right now because of my hip. Like it gets to be this isolating thing. Whereas like, I wish there was more support around that like middle ground of like, hey, let's get you back there. Let's figure out ways to like find support for you. And that's why I'm trying to create that. That's
literally exactly what you do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then like, you've obviously have these kind of like, they're not brand deals. They're like ongoing partnerships with a few brands.
Yeah.
From your social presence, stuff like that. Was that always the goal with building this social presence? Because I remember when I talked with Josh initially, he's like, I want to like amass a following. I want to like kind of go that route and, you know, be like a chiropractor kind of mentor through the screen, which has been like, and you guys have both crushed it. Like, can't say that enough. You guys have crushed it.
No, thanks. I mean, it's been fun just like playing with things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But I don't know if that was, I don't know if it was the goal. Like, I think some of the partnerships that have formed have been like incredible vehicles for community. And like, I've been fortunate that a lot of the brands that I have worked with, there has been, the reason that we've been connected has been less about a social following or a quote unquote like influence online, and more just about aligning with values. And so like a lot of the brands that I work with do have like a strong focus on like community building from like the inside out. And I kind of get frustrated these days about like talking about community because I feel like it's turned into such a buzzword. Like everybody's building a community, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we're all just in this community thing together. And actually, one of my friends, like literally right before I got here, sent me this video that I should send it to you, but it described it so well. Is building a community is not about like having people listen to one person or one idea. Building a community is fostering relationships where people can connect and share ideas and get to know each other and divide and conquer and like collaborate with resources, and basically like introducing and making that connection where people have this like opportunity to grow together. And that's what community is. Otherwise it's an audience where you're like, there's one person talking or one person doing, and then the rest are listening and seeing and watching. There's a big difference between like building your community online. You can do it in a way that is audience building, or you can do it in a way that's like allowing for opportunities for your community to actually interact.
That's super true. And I think like, because there's so many, I've seen chiropractors online that just like pick a girl with a big butt, mic her up and crack online. And it's like a big crack and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And then like that like explodes, you know? It's like, I think you've done a good job of like keeping your brand pretty in line with like healthcare first, stretching first, rehab first. It almost sounds counterintuitive, but the content you make is like basically telling people how to not show up at your clinic.
Well, it is kind of funny, but that's like,
but it gives you so much credibility.
Our values for the Center of Movement are community empowerment and education. And that is the ironic thing is like, we're able to do most of that so much more efficiently online, because when people come in to see us, they want the big crack, or they want like the Y strap yank they saw on YouTube.
Yeah, is that like, real?
It's real. People do it.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you're asking if I think it's valuable. I might have different opinions on that, but I mean, it looks cool and people like want that, right? They want that big like sound, and they want that big like massive explosion. But so anyways, in person, like people want to like feel that hands-on, and obviously like that's what our craft is, and like I want to provide that for people. But the problem is when people start to come in and they rely on your hands-on work, then they start to value less and less about like how much power they have in the healing process. So when you're working with somebody remote or online, you can teach them something. There's no interference about like, oh, Matt has magic hands and that's why my neck feels better. It's like, no, like you were doing all the things that you knew that would help you, and you were allowing for this pain experience to kind of fall into place and figure out how to navigate that. And that is why you're feeling better. It has nothing to do with anybody pushing on you a certain way or getting this amazing crack that is like, oh, that was the ticket, that's it.
Yeah.
It's like you get so much more like fulfillment or empowerment from that because you're the driving force, the patient. So
yeah, that's I guess that's super true though, because when I was there, it was all about like how to rehab it and how to strengthen it.
Yeah, and I mean, we probably don't want to turn this into like a chiropractic philosophy full on like talk, but like there are a lot of different ways for people to feel better. So this is not like a dig on anything because I think it all works for people. But like the thing that brings me the most joy is like seeing people excited about being part of the process. So that's what I want to instill in people is like, I want to invite them in to collaborate on their healing journey and not have them feel like they're signing up for me to like deliver something to them.
Yeah.
Like I want them to be an active participant.
But you have to, and that's, I agree with that. I think when I go there, I feel like an active participant, and I think you do a great job of that. But kind of driving back to that influencer kind of like thing, you must enjoy it. You must like, there's just no way you like can post every single day, like, or you at least must know you have to do it.
No, I do enjoy it. I honestly, I love doing it. And it's, I think like, it's funny. I mean, I've always, when I started my business, so quick backstory, like I was working at a super high volume clinic before I started my business, and we were seeing like thousands of people a week. And I enjoyed it there. I mean, I met a lot of amazing people, and I quickly realized like how burnt out I was feeling, and I was frustrated because I am somebody who like, I'm self-motivated to want to make a big impact. And I felt like I was capped because I was like, man, I'm seeing like X amount of people a week. At that point, I think it was like over 400 myself. And it was just like, I can't physically do more than this. Like, how am I supposed to make a bigger impact? And that's kind of what started the online journey is like, you know what, like there has to be a way for me to like reach more people in a way that provides value that isn't by like seeing them in person for X amount of minutes. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So now, you know, after years of like fostering that and building that, I am starting to see that come to fruition where I'm able to make an impact outside of my four walls, in a way that, you know, could only hoped for, dreamed for before. And so that is what is motivating to me is like, that's what I've wanted since the beginning. So,
well, do you happen to know what your highest, most viewed reel is? I think I was looking yesterday. I saw it.
I think it's like 19 million. Is like,
so like, just think of that. Like you could crack 400 backs. Would you say a week? You crack 400 backs a week for like till the end of time, and you might not crack 19 million.
It's so kind of wild to think about that.
That is insane that like you were able to like reach that amount of people and probably get even more people that refer back to it or still do it and think about it today, you know? Like,
and it is wild to think because like obviously like being a chiropractor, like we're in a very like hands-on profession. So like the thought of like providing value that's not hands-on is really foreign to a lot of people. Like I've had people be like, what do you mean you're doing telehealth? Like, but like, are you cracking backs on Zoom or like, what are you like, how are you doing this if you're a chiropractor? And it's just, it goes beyond like the title. Again, that comes back to the title. It's like, I have the educational background in being a chiropractor, but with that, I've learned a ton about the human body, how the body moves, how the body heals. So if I can educate people on that, that is my value to them.
Yeah, dude, that's really good. That's super. And with the social stuff, do you ever get paid as like a creator? Does like Instagram or Facebook, anyone send you checks?
TikTok actually has.
Really?
TikTok has sent checks. Instagram used to have like some kind of creator fund that they stopped doing, I think in like March, which is perfect timing. Because that's kind of when things started to really pick up for me on Instagram. But yeah, I've only gotten paid from TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I think YouTube's a good one. We talked about it a little bit before this podcast, man, but you can get paid on YouTube. And I think you can actually even get paid through Shorts now. I know it was rolling out sometime this year. It has to be out, being that it's August.
So many different ways to create, man.
Yeah, so many different ways to create. And, you know, I think But I'll never be able to understand how you're so consistent. You know, like we do this podcast to stay consistent, but if we had to like make a one-off reel skit looking thing every day, I think I'd just fall down. I wouldn't be able to do it. And like we'd make videos. We have like a 3-person team here making videos.
And honestly, man, like I was talking about this with somebody else before. It's like such a, like nobody cares or like talks about like all the fails of like figuring out like what really hits or what works. And like it's taken a long time to figure out like, oh, this is like what feels like is in a good rhythm for me. And then from there, just like doubling down on like the thing that's working.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more motivating to like create something that you feel confident in that's going to hit or going to work than just kind of guessing. And for a long time, I was just guessing. Like I was like, man, hopefully this is good. Like, or I saw somebody else do something like this. Like maybe I'll try to create something similar. Yeah. And like, it just was like a lot of weeding down until finally it was like, oh, this is what it seems like people want to see for me. And that's what I'm going to create for now. And yeah, kind of start to sprinkle some other stuff in eventually, but right now it's just like riding the wave.
Yeah. And I think that's something with content people always say. They're like, we need to be original. But then why are trends so popular? And why is like I truly think if you see a good idea and you see it and you like it and you think that you can fine tune it and make it cooler and more engaging and better, do it.
I think there's like a good blend of both, right? Like it's
definitely,
like, I feel like the trends is like awareness marketing. So like, even if it's not like the perfect style that you want to be out there, if you know that it's going to build awareness for your brand, why would you pass that up? Right?
Yeah.
So there's like the awareness style marketing, but then like maybe there's like the more like day in the life or like some of the like short reel clips where you're kind of like following along with a little bit more explanation or like a little bit more about the creator. I think those are great ways to build connection with the brand or with the person so that then you feel like this authentic, like, oh man, like I know this person. I want to support this person. I want to like do stuff with this person or work with this person.
Yeah.
You know, they're not gonna want to work with you necessarily from like a 7-second like text on screen video. But like if you can like build awareness that way and then they see some of your other stuff to get to know you, that's kind of how like the loop closes.
Yeah, and that's always been a goal with Bloom in our marketing is like we see so many video production companies, right? It's like, hey, we made this video. They post the video. Cool. Well, all I'm really watching is an ad for Chewy or something. It's like all I'm watching is an ad. Like, and I get you made it and it looks great. But our marketing at Bloom has always been focused on the people and showing the people behind the brand. Like we're doing, like, it has nothing to do with video production, but we're taking the camera, we're making a little vlog, we're going to the state fair, we're trying food, we're going to pump out some reels, and just like show the people behind the brand. I heard this quote and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like, I forget the percentage. It was like 70 or 80%, but it was like people will relate to a person 70 to 80% more, or people will buy from a person 70 to 80% more than they will buy from a brand.
I believe it.
So like people can push products, people can push brand, like, and that is probably why you have a LSKD shirt on and a melon hat on.
Yeah, there's no, I feel like it's true. Like there's something about like just connecting with somebody's story or like the way they're delivering something that I think is a lot more valuable than like a logo telling you like, hey, this is great.
Exactly. Exactly. Like people, if you attach a person to it, it's so much better. Like, I don't know, like even like your favorite sports team probably wouldn't be your favorite sports team unless they had your favorite player.
For sure, yeah.
But if your favorite player's out there, you're like, dang.
You're like, yeah. You know? And that's why people also follow favorite players to other sports teams. It's like,
exactly.
You might not be like, I mean, some people are lifer fans of certain teams, but like if you connect with a player, like it'd be pretty tough for you not to follow them to like the team they got traded to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same way, man. Even like with podcasts and stuff now, it's like, I'm pretty sure Celsius is about to just like go out of business. We're spending so much on podcasts. Celsius, hit us up if you want.
Yeah. Open for collabs.
Yeah, for real. But awesome. But yeah, I think like it's crazy, man. It's like that. Like I wouldn't even know about LSKD if it wasn't for you. And now it's like my favorite athleisure wear.
I love it, man. No, they're great, and that's one of the brands where like my friend Jameson, who kind of like is working on their like community program. I mean, he sees the value in like just building awareness through like storytelling, through events and through connection, and which is really similar to how I like again aligned with like how I want to run my business and my life. So partnering with them was like a no-brainer because I know that he supports the same things that I do. And yeah, just like very low key. Like, you know, it's not like nobody's pushing anything down anyone's throat. It's just like, hey, let's get together, let's do a workout, let's do some fun shit together, and let's match.
And it's not even about like, I mean, for some people like that are just, I don't know, mega influencers or whatever, and they're just trying to push numbers and get revenue or whatever. It's one thing, but like, you're so nonchalant about it. You're not like on your story every day, like use this coupon code and buy this. You have 24 hours left on the Memorial Day sale. You're like, you just like wear it, you give it to people, and now I've fallen in love with it, and I'll probably make an order, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's just like, it's like you said, it's simple.
You never want, I mean, in anything, like you never want to, people don't want to be forced or feel like they're forced to do anything, right? Like I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm running up against a clock for something. I don't want to feel like, oh man, like I really don't even know how to answer this because it sounds like I should probably support this person, but it's awkward. Like, it's just like, it's more of like introducing. Like, it's just like, hey, here's this thing. Like, I like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You seem like you might like it.
Exactly. And you're around a very like centered, no pun intended, centered group that is like, they all have similar interests, you know, and fitness is one of those interests, and apparently LSKD shirts are the best fitness shirts you can buy. So maybe, I don't know. But we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to talk a little bit about like work-life balance, because when I was like planning for this episode yesterday, I'm like going through doing a bunch of research on you, and I'm like, I didn't have enough. I didn't even say your introduction because I just feel like it has too much in it. Like literally, I don't know, how do you maintain a work-life balance? Because you had mentioned back in the day when you were doing one thing and you were just cracking backs and you were cracking 400 backs a week that you felt burnt out. And now here we are and you're doing more than ever. You have 2 kids?
Yep.
2 kids, a wife. Like, how do you balance all this stuff, man?
Yeah, I feel like balance is a tricky word. Like somebody once told me, like there's no such thing as balance. Like it's like figuring out what harmony looks like and like how you can make it work.
Dude, I've seen that. I've seen that same quote.
I love that because it's like,
I think it's like Alex Hormozi's like, I don't subscribe to that balance belief.
It's so true though. It's like, you know, there's I feel like it is tricky to do balance, and like life comes at you in different seasons where like you do have to like give a little bit more in certain areas and then pull back in certain areas. I was just talking to somebody earlier today about this. I feel like I know it probably seems like I do a ton, and I know that I do a lot, but I really do try to keep like sacred time where I am like recharging or like with my family as much as I can. I know sometimes I get sacrificed and I don't love that, but for the most part, I try to keep that like as like a constant as much as possible. Yeah. And then outside of that, like, you know, fortunately for me, because I do own my own business, I am in control of my schedule. So if I'm adding certain activities or certain things, I do have the opportunity to also pull back in other areas. So I'm not like all of a sudden just like burning the candle at both ends. Yeah. You know, so that is like, for me, it's tough because it is really easy for me to do way too much because I'm such a yes man and a people pleaser. But I have gotten a lot better at being more efficient with my time. And I had a coach challenge me in like cutting down my office hours where I'm available. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done. And it's been the best thing I've ever done because it's allowed me so much more freedom. And honestly, it hasn't really changed anything else. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's super deep. I like the harmony side of things that you had mentioned. I like when you say cutting down your office hours. I mean, this is just what I've been doing. Is I've been cutting down my office hours, but when I'm here, I'm in such a deep work state that I'm like getting so much done. Like I think I used to like work a little bit, grab lunch, call someone. You know, my dad calls. Gosh, I haven't talked to him in a couple of days. Let me just take this call. Now it's like when I'm here, I am like moving. No,
I think that's totally it. Is like you can be so much more intentional with your time if you have like blocked out like, hey, this is when I'm doing like my deep work. And so when I say like pulling back on that, it's like I'm just condensing like what I'm doing into being more efficient so that I'm not like spending the like 6-hour day when really I'm actually getting done 2.5 hours of work. And then I'm kind of like putzing back and forth for the other 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. And yeah, I think that I think balance is subjective. Some people think balance is having as much money as possible and working as hard as they possibly can and just getting it all done. Some people think balance is, coming to work, and everyone has a different perspective on it. So it's a hard question to answer, but I think you gave a little bit of insight on it.
Yeah, and like you said, even like around the money thing, it's like there's some people that want to like work their asses off right now to like set themselves up for later, but then like what are you missing now, right? Like I would argue that in my season of life, I have 2 young kids. Like I don't want to be working 80 hours a week right now. Like that's I mean I'm sure when I'm 60 that would be great if I was like, oh yeah, I set myself up to be on this like
but your kids are out of the house and you're just sitting there alone.
It's like I just rather like have that be more prioritized now while they're young. That's just me. It's not everybody, but yeah.
No, that's super good. And I think, it's something that a lot of people battle with. But yeah, finally, I know you have to leave at 4. We have 3 more minutes. I just wanted to ask, like, as we wrap up, do you have any exciting projects or any like developments in the works that like your followers could like check into? Any cool things happening?
I would say always so many things, but the easiest way to get in touch with that would be like through my social. Like I have most stuff linked on my bio, but we are rolling out like different programs for people to connect online. So we have a strength and resilience program. So if you're somebody who's like struggling with an injury, or maybe you're back from an injury and you're a little worried about getting back into the gym or getting back to your activity, we do have that we just launched, Josh and I, like a month and a half ago.
Nice.
So that's been solid, just kind of getting things rolling with that. And then always doing, if you are local to the Twin Cities, always doing events with LSKD and different brands. So if you want to get together for like a free sweat, just DM me. We'll hang out.
Cool. And thermoculture, right?
Yeah, and thermoculture. Yeah. So on the rooftop of the Hewing, doing some breath work and some sauna.
Yeah. We can talk about this a little bit after, but who runs the saunas and stuff up there? Isn't it Nomad or something?
Not Nomad, no. So so there's the Thermoculture Thursday. His name's John Peterson. Yeah, and he's the one that runs all the programming out of there. He has a couple different spots that he does. His business is called Stokeyard.
Yeah,
so they have like a spot in South Minneapolis also that they do some stuff out of, but he's the one that does all the programming and then kind of contracts us to like lead some of the different sessions. But yeah,
that's super cool, man. I gotta join. I'm just like I gotta come to one of those. I love that stuff, but I spend every dang weekend right now at the cabin.
Oh yeah,
I'm just always out and about, whether it's my cabin, a friend's cabin.
Minnesota summer, you gotta soak it in, man.
Yeah. Well, cool, Matt. Thanks for having you on. Where can the people follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Dr. Matt _TCOM, or TikTok is Matt, I don't even know, Matt.thecenter.mn.
Just scroll on your For You page and you'll see his somewhere. Face. Yeah, he'll be doing
yeah, we'll be moving.
The moving stuff. Cool, guys. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.